Everybody, welcome back, Locked On Bulldogs. We're all good. You're all good. And guess what?
Good.
Watch lists are out there. We're going to be talking about them dogs to be looking for that the rest of college football is looking for big things from next Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. We are, in fact, Locked On Bulldogs. He is Clint. I am Daniel. You are here, the audience, the listener, the everydayer. We're happy to have you. Thanks for making Locked On Bulldogs your first listen. Thanks for being here every single day. Thanks to Game Time for bringing us today's episode. Download the Game Time app today. More on them in a second. Clint, we're talking about watch lists.
Yeah.
And we got two, correct me if I'm wrong, we got two big watch lists out that comprise a lot of Georgia football players. I don't know if you've been reading the college football magazines. It's like a relic from a former time, but I can't let it go. You understand?
I was just going to say, Daniel, you went out, you found the only newsstand still in existence.
No. Let me stop you right there. There's a lot of things that I'm willing to say we should just let go of, okay? There's a lot of things where I'm like, let the past be the past. We've moved on into the future. That's all fine. Don't take away these college football magazines. Are they the most accurate publications in the world? No, they're not. Were they sent to press like 3 months ago before a lot of news has broken and happened? And yeah, of course they were. But I mean, I'm at the beach right now. And if you don't think that I'm out there with just surrounding myself with Athlon Sports magazines, you're a crazy person. These are the things that signify the beginning of the college football season. That's the point I'm trying to make. These watch lists that come out, they let us know that things are happening. And you look at these publications, Clint, you start to hear the scuttlebutt around. Now I know Kirby's trying to sell this as, well, we didn't win anything last year. This is a bit of a different season for us. We're coming up. We got a chip on our shoulder, blah, blah, blah. He's going to have to fight against quite a lot of rat poison, Clint, because people are high on this Georgia football team. Like, a lot of these national media publications are just penciling Georgia in to the number one seed in the playoffs, to coasting into the national championship, and to winning it all in a lot of cases. And that's evidenced not only by these college football magazines that we're not talking about today, it's evidenced by these watch lists that we are talking about. So we're going to talk about each one of the watch lists. But first, I want to ask a more general question as we get started.
Great. I like it.
Do these watch lists matter, Clint? Explain to the people why they do matter and why they don't matter, because two things can, in fact, be true at the same time.
Let me start with why it doesn't matter one shiny penny. Okay. I'm going to tell you.
This is the one you need to listen to. This is the one you need to listen to.
I'm going to let you know who was on this watch list last year as the most outstanding defensive player. Okay.
No, don't go to history.
This is going to sting because this is an ex-dog. Okay.
No.
You and I are very high on Smile Mondon, CJ Allen this year, Daniel. Very high on both of them. We think they're going to be exceptional. Dumas Johnson is no longer at UGA because he was going to lose reps to those two gentlemen. He was not going to start this year.
Already had.
Yeah, sorry. Had been replaced.
Past tense.
Okay. He was on the watch list for the most outstanding defensive player in the entire nation last year. That's why number one. Number two, there's like 75 names on this list of watch list. It's somewhat lazy. Just say, I don't know, who's the top recruit, who's back for another year, who should be good, and let's put them all on a list and say, here's our watch list. So that's why it doesn't matter. Does not matter. Why it does matter. Okay. Here's why it does matter. It matters because of perception of how NIL and how college football has changed, Daniel. That's why it matters. It matters because kids seeing their names in headlines is important for UGA, for the kids, for Kirby Smart and for recruiting. That's why it's important, Daniel.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with that more. Kirby uses this as a recruiting tool. And if you don't think he does, you're an idiot, because this just in, go listen to yesterday's episode. Kirby uses everything as a recruiting tool.
Anything.
Everything and anything that he possibly can, he's using it to recruit. And if you don't think that Georgia having a million names on these watch lists matters to him in terms of recruiting, it absolutely does. And so, does it matter in the grand scheme of predicting what is actually going to happen in this college football season? No, it doesn't. We've seen in the past. It does not necessarily mean that these guys are due for a good season. And in fact, we're going to talk in the next two segments about who we think is going to live up to this, and who on this list from Georgia maybe we think it's kind of nice that they're there, but I don't project that going forward for them. So it matters, it doesn't matter, but let's get to the names. We got two watch lists we're going to break them both down for you right after we come back from this.
And this is, in fact, game time right now. I love going to sporting events. You love going to sporting events. We all love going to sporting events. And because we're live in the stadium, and yes, if you don't think that I am just watching my timeline fill with Keely Ringo pick six, seal the deal against Alabama national championship videos, and still crying and remembering where I was in the stadium with all my boys, you're crazy, because I do. Game Time got us into that stadium. Game Time gets us into all stadiums. Game Time is the place that Daniel and I go to get last minute tickets. Last minute deals, save up to 60% off buying last minute tickets, sports, concert, and comedy and theater. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets, MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We have a couple of watch lists, like we talked about. Best defensive, best offensive player. We're going to get to those here. Well, I'll let you go.
Okay. Let's start on the defensive side of the ball, Clint.
I'm glad you said so, Daniel. This is the fewest names. We have three names to look for on this. The best offensive, or best on the offensive side in the trench for the Outland Trophy. We have a couple of more names, but I'm going to start with defensive on the Nagurski Trophy watch list. We have three names: Malachi Starks, Smile Mondon, Michael Williams. Those are the three big dogs for Georgia defense this year. And if you were going to pick a big three for the defense, Daniel, would you change those names? Would you add anybody else besides those three right there?
That's an interesting question. Well, you obviously have a front, middle, back right there.
Yep.
Like you got all three levels of the defense taken care of. And I would say this unequivocally. I will say this: those are the three names that deserve to be on this list from the University of Georgia.
He chose his words very carefully.
Now, they deserve that because they are known commodities. Okay?
Yes.
We know exactly what we're going to get out of them. Now, are there guys on this defense that excite me more than some of those individuals? Yes, there are. But that excitement, if I'm honest, and if you're honest, Georgia fan, is based primarily on potential and flashes that we have seen. It is not based on a baseline of consistency that we've seen throughout the longevity of a career. Now, I think the name that you would add, if you're a Georgia fan, onto this list is CJ Allen. Like, that's the name that obviously jumps to the top.
Yep.
And I'm not going to dispute that CJ Allen at the end of the season might be the third best defensive player on Georgia's roster, or the second best defensive player on Georgia's roster even. But we've not seen it throughout the course of an entire season. The highs of CJ Allen last year were in contrast to an injured Smile Mondon and aforementioned Jamon Dumas-Johnson.
Yeah.
And CJ Allen came in and played very well, admirably in those situations. and as a true freshman, gave us a lot of reasons to be hopeful. But let's not forget the lows of CJ Allen, particularly towards the end of the season,
Ooh.
where we saw him getting, and I don't use this term loosely, torched by being out of position, by being outflanked, by taking wrong angles, by not diagnosing plays correctly as they were developing and coming out of the backfield. We saw CJ Allen get exposed. Now, why did that happen later in the season? He should have had more experience. He should have been more ready to take on those plays. Why didn't it happen earlier in the season when he was greener? What you saw is offensive staffs intentionally try to take advantage of CJ Allen based on the tape that they had seen.
Yep.
And it worked. It worked to a certain extent. And so what we're going to need to see is a Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann-esque jump in development from year 1 to year 2. And the good news is, we've said this before on the podcast, nobody's got a better track record of that than Glenn Schumann. Nobody has a better track record of developing linebackers and seeing them make that jump than Glenn Schumann does.
That's right.
And so, yes, CJ Allen could be the second or third best player on this defense, even better than Smile Monda, and I think his ceiling is there. But I think it would be completely unfair for a Georgia fan to be like, well, CJ Allen anchors the linebacking core. No, he doesn't.
No.
CJ Allen's the best linebacker on the roster. No, he's not. That's still Smile Monda. He's still the most important piece, you could argue, on this entire defense, even including guys like Malachi Starks, because of where he plays on the field and what he does. And so CJ Allen, I think, would be a worthwhile name to add at the end of the season, but at the beginning of the season, I like it where it's at.
Look, the question I have for all of us, Michael Williams is getting so much love from everyone. All SEC mentions, watch list here. Draft choices. He's looking like he is mocked in the top 5, second overall after Carson Beck in a couple of mocks. And I just look at this and I go, I know the talent's there. I know the size. I know the speed. I know all of that is there. I have yet, and Georgia fan, do not fight me on this. You have not seen, I have not seen, and you have not seen the production on the field yet from him for what he should be. If all of this is true, the watch list, all SECs, all of that, I anticipated this guy breaking records for sacks when he came into Georgia. I was on record of saying yes, because I saw what everybody else sees.
Yeah.
It's been and he's not a bad player. Listen, I'm not saying he's a bad player. He has disappointed. That is true because of what the expectations were. Fair or unfair, I don't really care. He should be up there somewhere else, and he's not. I'm wondering what is going on here. CJ Allen should be, could be, might be on this list down the line. Malachi Starks is the easiest of all of these. He is a bona fide stud.
He's the number one defensive player in all of college football.
All of college football. Like, I don't stop. If you have a list of best defensive players and you don't start with Malachi Starks, you don't know ball. This dude is everything you want in a football player on the defensive side of the football. We're going to come back after this. We're going to talk about the other side of the trenches and see who we think may have been snubbed or who's getting into that. But first, these. And these are, in fact, eBay Motors. eBay Motors is fantastic. Daniel and I, we exclusively buy older vehicles because we know that it's fantastic to keep them up with eBay Motors. It's very, very simple. It keeps our MVP, our ride or die going, whether that's exhaust, whether that's acceleration, whether that's mechanical appearance, or just maintenance that you need on your ride or die. Millions of parts for your MVP right now. eBay Motors has a guaranteed fit. You put everything that you need, like the make, model, year, into the garage. And eBay Motors guarantees that you'll be burning rubber, not cash, with all parts you need, prices you want. It's easy to make your MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive. ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available for U.S. customers.
All right, Clint, let's talk about some other names, this time on the offensive side of the ball. You mentioned there were a few more names for Georgia to discuss here. And I think that makes sense based on how optimistic and, our level of anxiety about this offense and this defense are not the same. There's much more anxiety this season coming in surrounding the Georgia defense than there is the Georgia offense. Georgia offense filled with known commodities. So Who are the guys that are getting recognized on the offensive side of the ball on this preseason watch list?
And as I'm looking at the watch list, I had subjected this out by skill positions and trench. We have 3 guys on the offensive side of the trench, and we actually have 1 more on the defensive side of the trench that I had forgotten about. So that is my fault, but we're going to get into that. The 3 on the offensive side that I think is a major snub in here. I'm going to start right off the bat. I'm going to list the names and then tell you who is not on this list. And I think to myself, you're all crazy. Dylan Fairchild, Tate Ratledge, and Xavier Truss are the 3 Georgia football players on the offensive side of the football named to a watch list for the best offensive lineman.
Now, hang on, Georgia fans.
Okay.
Which guy do you think he's not talking about? Do you think it could be? And I'm just spitballing here because I don't know. I can't read Clint's mind. I'm not a mind reader, for crying out loud. Do you think it could be the best offensive lineman on Georgia's team that he's upset that they omitted from this list?
But possibly the best that we have on offense might possibly be another Andrew Thomas-esque left tackle that he just holds down, doesn't get any sacks, doesn't allow any sacks. Why is Ernest Green not on this list? Y'all are insane for not including him. Xavier Truss is on this list, for crying out loud.
This is just known commodity. This is just college football preview magazines, Clint. I've heard the name. I know the name. Xavier Truss is Ernest Green is under the radar, but I promise you, he's not under the radar of NFL scouts. No. I promise you he's not flying under the radar of any opponent on Georgia. Ask a defensive coordinator in the SEC. Ask a defensive coordinator in the SEC who he's putting on this watch list for the University of Georgia. And I don't want to hurt your feelings, listener, but it ain't Tate Ratledge.
See, this is wild to me.
I know it's hard because he has a podcast and I am also a podcaster. And so that makes us connected. But Ernest Green's a better offensive lineman than Tate Ratledge. And I love that Tate's on our team, and I love what he brings to the team. I think he's deserving of being on this list. But I have noticed he's the first name out of people's mouth when they talk about this Georgia offensive line.
Yes.
And I do think it's because he's the most charismatic. I think it's because he's the most he has that personality. And so it's easy to gravitate towards him. But I think if you ask an SEC defensive coordinator who they're game planning around, it's going to be that left tackle. It's not going to be the right guard. And it's so wild. The fact that Ernest Green's not on this list is it's criminal. It's tough. But it's honestly not that surprising.
Look, I don't know. I'm going to think of a name that gosh, Tate Ratledge, I like you. I appreciate you. I think you're a very good player for us. I think you're one of the best interior offensive linemen in the entire nation. I'm not disparaging anything. But, Daniel, this feels a little Ben Cleveland-esque to me. Ben Cleveland came in, the highest of high hopes, performed pretty dang well, but not to the trophy award-winning best interior lineman, best guard, best lineman on the team. He wasn't any of those things. He was good. He was big. He was a 5-star. He got the things rolling for Kirby early on, just like Richard LeCount. They were very important for what Georgia wanted to do and had success doing. Not disparaging any of that. But Tate Ratledge is getting so much attention. Xavier Truss is getting attention. Yes, if I were to ask SEC defensive coordinators, or offensive coordinators, I line up those 3 dudes and I say, you have 5 reps to get past these guys. Who do you first want to go at? And you don't get more than that. I'm telling you right now, Ernest Green is not going to be first up for them. They're going to say, no, we know that he has that side locked down. We're going to blitz off that side because we need more pressure off of it. That's what we're going to do. We are not going to trust our guys one-on-one to take care of it. Those are the lists. Nazir Stackhouse also, like I said, I had mentioned I had omitted him from the previous one. Nazir Stackhouse, kind of a surprise mention for me because I think he is good, but he's getting now national acclaim, Daniel. I think warranted, and I think very well deserved.
I think very well deserved too. Let me ask you this. Is he the best veteran defensive lineman on the team?
Nope.
I mean, I think he's got the potential to be, but has he played to this point in his career better than Warren Brinson? I don't think he
Nope.
has. But I'm glad both of them are on my roster. These are good problems to have if you're a Georgia fan. We are inside of
Come on.
1 month until Georgia takes the field in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Fall camp is here. It's underway. Practice is starting.
Yep.
And we've got lots to cover on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. We will be back with lots more coverage on your favorite team. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow. Leave us a rating and review. All those things are helpful. He's Clint. I am Daniel. And we will see you guys next time.
See ya.